Well, welcome back to our course on systems design as we're looking at system analysis and design from the perspective of Dennis, Wixom, and Roth. And we are working through part 4, the implementation. And for this lecture, we're specifically going to be focusing on the transition to the new system. For this course and using this material, we're focusing on an information system using this notional company drone tech as an illustration of what we're trying to explore. So with this lecture, we're going to be talking about transitioning to the new system. So we want to be thinking about here and examine the activities needed to install the information system and successfully convert the organization to using it. It also discusses the post-implementation activities such as system support, system maintenance, project assessment. Installing the system and making it available for use from a technical perspective is relatively straightforward. However, the training and organizational issues surrounding the installation are more complex and challenging because they focus on people, not computers. So here are the 5 objectives. We'll explain the system installation process. We'll describe the elements of a migration plan. We'll look at the different types of conversion strategies and when to use them. We'll look at several techniques for managing change, and then we'll also have an outline of post-installation processes. So here we have making the transition to the new system. Transitioning to the new system involves managing change from pre-existing norms and habits. And so here we're going from the as is, we've used that term, we're transitioning to the to-be system, which will be the new baseline. So change management involves unfreezing, loosening up people's habits and norms. And so we're going to have to be people thinking about how we've done it and being open to do things differently. Moving is transitioning from an old to the new system. So you may have to have both operating in parallel in some form or fashion. And then finally, refreezing, institutionalizing, and making efficient the new way of doing business. And so that's how it will be working when it's completed. So it's beneficial to have the migration plan when activities will be performed, when and by whom. From the technical aspects, there's looking at installing the hardware and software and converting the data. From an organizational aspects, there's a training the users on the system and motivating employees to use the new system to aid in their work. So you want to have a business contingency plan. What do you do if things go very wrong during the conversion? Technical glitches may occur during the transition, so we want to be ready for that. Is this old system still available? If not, how can we keep the business running? And can manual procedures be used for a short period of time? So getting those answers to those questions will be very important. You want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Think about the consequences of being unable to operate normally. That would mean loss of sales, unhappy customers, and who could stay afloat if you have that kind of a situation. So you want to be thinking about the conversion strategy. The process by which the new system is introduced into the organization is called the conversion strategy. Those implementing this strategy must consider, 1, how abruptly the change is made. That would be the conversion style. 2, the organizational span of the introduction. That would be the conversion locations. And 3, the extent of the system that is introduced, and that's the conversion modules. So in terms of conversion styles, there's a direct conversion where the new system instantly replaces the old. Another possibility is a parallel conversion where there's a more gradual introduction. For a time, both the old and the new systems are used. The old is abandoned when the new is proven fully capable. This reduces risk by providing the organization with a fallback position if many problems are encountered with the new system. In terms of the locations, You can have a pilot conversion where one or more locations are converted to work out the bugs before extending to the other locations. This has the advantage of limiting the effect of the new system to just the pilot location. It must be able to tolerate different locations using different systems and business processes for a certain length of time. You can have a phase conversion where locations are converted in sets. Sometimes this is a deliberate delay between the phases so that any problems with the systems are detected before too many of the organization is affected. And you can also have a simultaneous conversion that all locations are converted at the same time. What about the modules? It may be desirable to decide how much of the new system will be introduced into the organization at a time. When the modules within the system are separate and distinct, organizations can convert to the new system one module at a time using modular conversion. You can be thinking of whole system conversion where all the modules are converted in one step, or modular, where modules are loosely associated, they can be converted one at a time. What are the key factors in selecting a strategy? First is risk. You want to think of the seriousness of consequence of the remaining bugs. The cost, parallel requires paying for two systems for a period of time. Simultaneous requires more staff to support all locations. And finally, parallel, phased, and modular require more time. So in terms of the risk, to minimize the risk, parallel conversion style would be good. You can have pilot conversion locations. That would be one way to dealing with it. And you can do conversion by modules. The riskiest conversion strategy would be a direct conversion style, simultaneous conversion locations, and conversions of the whole system. What about cost? To minimize cost, the direct conversion style, pilot or phase conversion location, or conversion of the whole system would be things to consider. The highest cost conversion strategy would be parallel or simultaneous conversion location and conversion of modules. So that just gives you a perspective. So we have risk, we have cost. And finally, for time, to minimize time, the direct conversion style would be good. You can have simultaneous conversion location or conversion of the whole system. The longest time conversion strategy would if you do things in parallel, you do phase conversions or conversions of modules. So here is just the summary of the conversion strategies where we're looking at risk, cost, and time. We've gone over this, and so you can be using this as a guide as you're coming up with a final decision of which one you're going to be utilizing. In terms of preparing a business contingency plan with new systems, it is appropriate to always expect the worst. That's a smart strategy. You keeping small technology glitches in the new system from turning into major business disasters is known as business contingency planning. One of the limitations of problem prevention through perfect project management techniques is the constant pressure of budget constraints and limited time that most projects face. We want to think about preparing the technology. There are three major steps involved in preparing the technical aspects of the new system for operation. Install the hardware, install the software, and converting the data. Although it may be possible to do some of these steps in parallel, they usually must be performed sequentially at any one location. Data conversion is usually the most technically complicated step in the migration plan. So in terms of preparing people for a new system, the sponsor is the business person who initiates the request for the new system. The change agent is a person or persons who lead the change effort, and the potential adopter or adopters are the people who must change. There's 4 steps in the change management. You revise the management policy, you assess costs and benefit modules of potential adopters, you motivate adoption, and you enable people to adopt. In terms of the understanding the resistance to change, since we're dealing with people, we have to be aware of this. Every change, even changes that benefit an organization, do not necessarily benefit each individual. and adopting to new work processes require effort for which there may be no additional compensation. And so that can be some challenges that you're going to have to deal with. For revising management policies, no computer system will be successfully adopted unless management policies support its adoption. Management tools for supporting adoption can be standard operating procedures, measurement and rewards, and resource allocation. Standard operating procedures become the habitual routine for how work is performed. Measurements explicitly defined, meaning because they provide clear and concrete evidence about what is important to the organization. Rewards reinforce measurements because, quote, what gets measured gets done. In terms of assessing the cost and benefits, the next step in developing a change management plan is to develop two clear and concise lists of costs and benefits provided by the new system. The first list is developed from the perspective of the organization. The second list of cost and benefits is developed from the viewpoint of the different potential adopters expected to change or stakeholders in the change. An analysis of the cost and benefits for each set of potential adopters or stakeholders will help pinpoint those who will likely support the change and those who may resist the change. There must be a compelling reason for the organization to need the change. The likelihood of successful change is increased when the cost of transition to individuals who must change is low. How do we go about motivating adoption? The single most important factor in motivating a change is providing clear and convincing evidence of the need for change. There are two basic strategies for motivating change: informational and political. With an informational strategy, the goal is to convince potential adopters that the change is for the better. And for a political strategy, organizational power, not information, is used to motivate the change. Both strategies are often used simultaneously, and so you can keep that in mind. In terms of change management planning, potential adopters generally are 20 to 30% are ready adopters, 20 to 30% are resistant adopters, and 40 to 60% are reluctant adopters. Strategies should focus on the supporters and encourage ready adopters and helping them win over the reluctant adopters. Quote, ignore the resistance adopters is you want to just think about each of these categories and come up with a plan for how you want to go forward with that. And this gives us a potential strategy for that. Training can be one way to help enable adoption. Every new system requires new skills. New skills may involve use of the technology itself, and new skills may be needed to handle the changed business process. A little bit more on training, what to train. IT specialists tend to focus training around system features. Instead, you want to be focusing on helping users accomplish their task. Use scenarios provide an outline for common activities and a basis to plan training. There can be three types of trainings you can consider: classroom, one-on-one, and computer-based. So you can be thinking about your organization and what might be the best approach. So here are those three types of training, and what are the cost to develop, cost to deliver, the impact, and the reach. And so what is the best approach that's going to be applicable to your organization? For post-implementation activities, you want to provide support and assistance in using the system. You want to provide maintenance, so you're able to repair or fix discovered bugs or errors and add minor enhancements to provide added value. And you want to assess the project, analyze what was done well, and discover what activities need improvement in the future. For system support, once a project team has installed the system and performed the change management activities, the system is officially turned over to the operation group. This group is responsible for the operation of the system, whereas the project team is responsible for the development of the system. You can have on-demand training at time of the user need, and you can also have online support and use of facts and frequently asked questions. And help desk can be a useful thing where the phone service is available for known issues. A level 1 support can help with broad knowledge, and then you can have unresolved issues passed on to level 2 support that have specialists in the application system and get users operational and overcoming any challenges they might have. What are the elements of a problem report? The time and date of the report, name, email address, telephone numbers of the support person, so all their contact information, the name, email address, and telephone number of the person who reported the problem. You want to have the software and or hardware that's causing the issue, the location of the problem, description of the problem, any actions taken, and the disposition, which is how the problem was fixed or forwarded to system maintenance. So in terms of system maintenance problems, reports from the operation group, they deal with this. They handle the request for enhancements from users. They deal with the request for other system development projects and also handle the change requests from senior management. For project assessment, it's important for continued project improvement. And you could be asking these questions: were cost estimates accurate? Did the expected benefits actually materialize? Was the project really worth doing? And it's especially important for junior personnel to improve quickly. For project team review, each member prepares a 2 to 3 page document regarding their actions during the project. You want to focus on improvements, not penalties. And excellent behaviors are acknowledged and diffused to others. And team leaders summarize and distribute the lessons learned. For system review, you want to examine the extent to which the costs and benefits of the system are realized. You can use this information to help in more accurately estimating cost and benefits for future projects. All right, just finishing up with a chapter review, I have a couple slides. We identified and described Lewin's 3-step model of organizational change. See the textbook for more details. We explained how the activities of the system analysis and design help the unfreezing process. We looked at what is the purpose of the migration plan. We identified and described the 3 implementations of the conversion strategy and how choices made will impact the cost, time, and risk of conversion. And we also discussed the role and importance of business contingency planning during system migration. We identified and discussed the main reasons underlying the people's resistance to change. We identified and described ways to overcome the resistance to change. We discussed the role and purpose of post-implementation support. We described the sources of change request. We discussed the best way to provide ongoing system maintenance. And finally, we discussed what is gained from conducting a post-project review. And we then just have 2 slides for key terms that we picked up for this FAQs, facts that you probably have heard, that different types of level of support that you can get from maintenance and IT. Those are some things I could point out, but you can see this whole list: standard operating procedures, or SOPs, and everything else that we have listed here. All right, well, thank you very much. That's it for this lecture.